You know who over here, right? This is the first installment of, what did you call this thing again?
What? What?
We're on camera, the first installment of,
I don't know, transition of family fights over memoirs.
No, the care and feeding of the alcoholic or something like that.
Oh, well, that too, but that's not what I've been fighting about the last 2 days.
We're gonna fight
You're off the center stage, and now it's a big fight with the family over my memoirs. So what do you say about that? That I should just go ahead, no matter how mad they get, I should write the truth? Well, I always thought the truth was preferable to a cover-up, you know, whitewashing. Your grandfather was, you know, just create a grandfather out of a fictional grandfather. This is what they seem to want.
Who's they? That's what I want to know.
My mother. The grandkids.
No, wait a minute. My mother used to come up.
The grandkids want a nicer grandfather.
You know what they're going to say, and you know, what did they think? And I always said, Mom, who are they? And who are?
Well, see,
besides that, most of the people that I know growing up didn't think at all. It was already done for them. They were in, you know, church or something, so they didn't think.
Well, so see, I don't live in a...
You know, it's like keeping up appearances, you know.
I don't live in that country, so I think my niece is absolutely horrified. She does live in the same town where I grew up. She wants to prevent me from publishing a memoir that the whole town and the whole state is going to be talking about.
I think you ought to write that book.
You blame her?
I think you ought to write that book that she thinks you ought to write.
I think she's thinking, how could she live in that town and show her face?
Teenagers would like to read that book, don't you think, huh?
Well, she might have to move. I'm causing her.
I might have my bowels move any second.
I mean, she might have to sell her retirement home and move away get away from the scandal of my memoirs.
Well, you ought to write a book for teenagers.
Yeah.
How wonderful it is to grow up to be in the Mormon teenager. Oh, jeez.
Or a cowpuncher. She suggested that.
I tell you what.
I think she's saying, leave out the bad stuff, the drunkenness
stuff. Because that cow probably comes back and
that kind of thing, and just write one to inspire teenagers with your cowpunching stories. And leave off when your dad would froth at the mouth.
How do you punch a cow? I can't figure that out. What do you do, kick it in the udder or something like that?
Sometimes cowpunching is not ideal. I mean, especially if you've got a grandfather that will take a bullwhip and whip people if they don't do what he's, you know, if they don't move fast enough.
You have a problem against bullwhip.
Yeah, this bullwhip, this handy bullwhip. Hey, I'll teach you.
Listen, if my grandfather walked around with a bullwhip, I think I'd be a little nervous.
And you know, my poor niece, I'm going to bring the, you know, her home is going to not be the ideal place that she wanted to retire. She might even have to move. Well, I tell her, okay, well, you might have to move.
Your problem, as I perceive it to be, you worry about other people doing things that they don't want to do in the first place that they're not going to do.
Well, so I've got this problem of my son.
I'll do that real slow for you, okay?
My son and nieces, they don't want me to write this memoir, so I'll picture their grandfathers and their great-grandfathers not looking very good. So there's the dilemma. Do I tell it like it really was? And they're acting like, well, why? Maybe you didn't perceive it right. And I say, no, I did. I mean, I'm pretty sure that I was there. And I'm trying to write the story of growing up with an alcoholic who's acting pretty bad. And my mother, as I've already described, is psycho mom. You know, she didn't drink, but she had a horrible temper and she didn't like this drink. So they don't want me to write this story. I create a better mother and dad than that.
Listen, the old statement is, we don't get to pick our parents, all right? I know one thing, if I had picked my parents, the only thing I would ask for is have them independently wealthy and a little more educated. But other than that, I mean, talk about two beautiful people. Well, they created me, right? You know,
I've seen people up in Utah write them memoirs, you wouldn't even recognize them.
Well, of course.
You know, when they write their church history, they write the old polygamists be saints, wonderful. Well, they had to make them look good because polygamy was so hard to sell. This wonderful old polygamist, he's got 180 kids and 26 wives. But oh, what a wonderful guy! Marcus really had a job, to try to whitewash these guys.
And you notice how really physically attractive they were with the big beards hanging down, right. The old womb broom type thing.
Oh, I've seen this. I've seen them cutting didos trying to put a good fix on, Mormon history, especially back when polygamy was.
Well, that's the whole deal.
I know. And then the cowboys, the old rough and tumble outlaws, and they're real outlaws. People don't realize if you're an outlaw, whole town might be scared of you. Or
don't you remember that the motion picture called
cheat, lies,
The Last Movie Show?
Yeah, right.
And this is a real cowboy talking to the other kid. What do you want to be when you grow up, son? He says, I want to be a cowboy. What? I want to be a cowboy. He said, a cowboy is... Of course, I'm laughing because I saw this. That's the last thing. If you can't be anything else, you can always be a cowboy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and my dad couldn't be anything else because he couldn't last in the city, so he came back. Well, in Hollywood even, the outlaw... They pretty their outlaws up, They don't want to be too, like old Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, for example. They don't want to say that they were just as mean and ugly and scary as they were.
Did you ever see the actual pictures? These people are ugly.
I know, and you get your typical train robber, They're not really, as glamorous and thrilling as the movies portray them. In fact, the townspeople would probably be scared to death of them. They're just, because they're such bad at eggs. They've got their guns, and they bring their guns out and scare all the little kids.
Well, they're dumb and ugly.
Heavens no, they're not dumb. How can you make a movie about a dumb, ugly outlaw and have it make a lot of money?
You can't.
You gotta make them handsome. You gotta cast Paul Newman. I wrote to Paul Redford and I said, you ought to be ashamed of yourself, putting those outlaws up. Put your handsome self in there. I said, Sundance and Butch, you want to hang out with them? That'd be the last people on earth you'd really want to hang out with. The real ones. You get in the outlaws in these towns, people just avoid them. They look the other way when they go by. They could be guilty of molesting their kids, just horrible stuff. Well, Hollywood doesn't tell. If an outlaw molests the kids or does some horrible thing like that, they're not going to put that in the movie. They're going to leave that out. So they pretty up the story. And this has got what's got people out there wanting to pretty their relatives up, take their warts off, if they're, if they're capable of some really rotten, dirty things. Just leave that out. Just don't. Just turn it into a Hollywood movie. Turn your memoirs into a Hollywood movie. Say, make it the colorful West. I've had people high pressuring me my whole life. Just write stories about cow punching out in the West. And it's kind of like, leave those ugly little stories out of it. You don't want to make your family look bad. You don't want to tell about your dad laying on the couch, dying if he drank a bottle of rub alcohol. You don't want to tell that.
Your problem is...
I'd have to leave out most of my childhood. childhood, you know, if I pretty it up. I just couldn't even have that childhood. I'd have to write another one, you know? Because there was so much of my childhood that was disturbing, not too, and you know, a lot of kids live in that. That's what my point has been, that alcoholism is ugly, you know, as kids. They can be ugly as
alcoholism is terrible, folks. I want you folks to know right now.
It is. I mean, just imagine him being the father of a bunch of little kids and coming home, and he'd do it, sitting, you know, my dad would do it. He'd come home drunk, pass out under the Christmas tree. Imagine a father that passed out under the Christmas tree.
Yeah, it's a real good gift for the kids, isn't it? Hey,
like
guess what we got for Christmas this year? Daddy's hung up in the Christmas tree.
Yeah, and we'd get him up, you know, we'd say, Daddy, please get up and look at your presents. So he'd get up, hung over, you know, and we'd say, Daddy, open your present. And he'd take it and start, and he'd be too drunk, so he'd just, Daddy, open your present, what we gave you. Oh, it was pathetic, you know. This is the real story.
I can see this right now. When I can
having an alcoholic dad.
I can see this right now. Right? Here's this guy laying there. He's opening the present. He's going, what? Nobody gave me a bottle of booze? Oh, you kids aren't worth a crap. Where's the booze?
Oh, my, you know, and they just barely, you know, and I've seen my dad, I mean, my mother, get in a fight just like that, and he'd run over and grab a butcher knife, hold it to her throat, and say, do you want me to kill her, kids? No, Daddy, don't kill her, don't kill her. You know, I mean, you don't want to tell stories like that. Yeah, and my, you know, my younger sisters, they witnessed him doing something like that too, and wasn't the first time. He'd get me out real mad, get out his gun. I'll shoot you, you bitch. I'll shoot you. Well,
now that has no effect.
Now that's an outlaw. That's an outlaw dad
no effect on
drinks.
A child. It doesn't. This has no effect.
Oh, no, it wouldn't have any effect. I mean,
I know, I used to do it on the stepkids all the time.
Pull a gun on them?
Oh, hell yes.
I'd pull a gun on them.
I'd pull a knife and slap the shit out of them.
Right. Oh, see, you know, these are pretty unsettling stories.
Yeah, but the funny
and
thing
I'm
about
having
it
a real tough time.
I'm believing it because I've seen you in action.
Well, I'm just saying that if I publish a memoir like this, well, my nieces and nephew, they live in that country, and the scandal would be so great, they might even have to sell their homes and move away.
I don't.
Well, they couldn't take it. Everybody's saying, pointing to it. That's the family.
If anybody bought more than six books, and I'd buy 5 of them just to get them off the market and give you one. There's 6 right there.
I mean, what I went through as a kid, you know, I'm putting there and I'm saying, now this is what you alcoholics out there, this is what you're putting your kids through. This is the real, unvarnished story of what an alcoholic can do to his kids. That was my purpose in writing this book. Now I've got my whole family objecting, saying that I beat my dad to death, just leave him alone. And I haven't even published the book yet. Nothing is even, they're not even that, you know. So how?
I told you I'd bank you for it. I give you a
bankroll. How can,
listen, I've been screwed out of a lot of money in my lifetime. What's another $1 or so?
So every time I go to start, you know, put my memoirs out there, somebody in my family gets all upset, objects to me making them, my dad looks so bad.
Wouldn't be
my dad even, you know, we'd say, Daddy, you drank and you did this, and he'd say, you goddamn liars. You know, he didn't like his past thrown up to him. That wasn't even nice. You know? And he had quite a lot of money by then, you know.
How about this?
How
about this? I don't remember a thing. I did not do that. I don't remember doing it, and I believe you're making up the whole story.
Oh, he said a lot stronger than that.
I was trying to be
but
nice,
he had money, so we put up with him. Because why? He'd go out and get in trouble, do some horrible thing, and the
cops
sheriff would
call
call
you
us
on
up
the
and say,
phone.
"We got your dad in jail. What will we do with him? Do you want him in should we put him in a rehab, or do you want us to keep him in jail, or do you want to come get him?"
Gee, that's a tough one, isn't it? Yeah.
Then we say,
That's a toughie.
"Yeah, well, I guess we'll have to go get him." You know, it'd make us really mad.
Well, he's got
He's
this
just
big
incorrigible. You know,
Cadillac Eldorado, you know. Could we have the car? You can keep
died.
going,
He was just until he died. He was breaking the rules. He'd get drunk, go out on the highway, cause a wreck. That's what he did. Not too long before he died. They didn't kill anybody, but he could have done. Well, do I have to tell that?
Listen, if I have to put up with your new series on how to handle
An alcoholic.
in the care and handling of a
Well,
you have to put
us
up with it,
girls.
because I'll tell you one thing. This is not a condensed version of your childhood, but I'll tell you what, it's truthful, and I don't care what you people think, because I don't care.
Well, here he is. He's one of the worst old alcoholics there is. But I've got so I can't even hardly deal with any other kind. I mean, my dad was so extreme that, and right, he still was a very unpleasant old guy. When he was old, in fact, he had gotten so.
Didn't you say
I
that?
dreamed a week before he died that he was driving his Cadillac along the road and he saw me. And he was mad at me, so he decided to run over me and push me off the cliff. So he turned the Cadillac, and I saw him, and I thought, uh-oh, Daddy's going to kill me.
Oh, and I've had that dream lately myself. Except I don't have a Cadillac.
He headed right for me.
Push you off the cliff.
He headed right for me. He was gonna push me off the cliff, and he missed me. I jumped aside, he missed me, and the car went over the cliff, and he was killed.
Then you lost.
And I went over there and looked, and I thought, well, better him than me.
Yeah.
I mean, things can get really rough when you're dealing with a guy like that. I'm the daughter of this guy.
You missed the Cadillac, though, didn't you?
Oh, I missed that Cadillac. I was so mad at him for wrecking it. I really wanted that Cadillac. That was the one
Cadillac was a nice
car that I really wanted, and I thought it was so mean of him to go out and wreck it. He totaled it. So, it's brand new. Wasn't even a year or so old. And so I didn't even get the Cadillac. So I just got a bunged up station wagon that he'd hit, had dents in it all over. So
did you ever scrape that deer off the hood? Well, the antlers were sticking in the.
I think a lot of people kind of whitewash their parents, just so the neighbors won't know how bad they were or stuff they did. And I always grew up saying, I will not whitewash. I will not do that. I will tell the unvarnished truth. But boy, am I ever having a hard time doing it.
Yeah, but I tell you what.
Because my family objects to the unvarnished truth.
You know what
They're telling me that that's not nice.
You know what I object to?
I'm maligning that old man.
You know what I object to?
What? What?
There's a pregnant pause here while us drunks are trying to figure out what we're going to say next. Never mind this.
You never mind.
Well, I've got to play the role
here. And to me, people wonder why I'm
trying to play a good role
compared
here.
To my dad, he's a good drunk. My dad was a mean drunk. He had gotten, he had his virtues. I mean, he was a great horseman, trained horses. He knew how to do everything on the ranch, but he was mean. He was a mean guy. And this guy, he's not that mean, so I classify him as being one of the better drunks. He's still,
finally,
and, if you got a little improvement...
I graduated from not being a bad drunk to be a mediocre drunk.
One of the better
I'm just a mediocre drunk now, folks. Thank you so much.
But I can appreciate I can appreciate a better drunk. Because there are different kinds of drunks. There are mean drunks. There's drunks that will just do almost anything bad. But he, you know, he won't do everything. He's not that mean or bad. So he's one of the better drunks. So
well, I just jumped up from mediocre to be better. Wow, I went up to C to a C plus. Damn.
But the truth is, he is a drunk. I can never deny that he's not a drunk, because he every day gets up and proves that he is. So I tell the truth about him. I don't ever lie and say I tell it like it is. I say he's you know, he's one of the better drunks, but he's still a drunk.
And you know what this woman will not do?
Getting around that.
This woman will not go over to Circle K and buy any beer from me.
So I don't enable him. I've been accused of enabling him. I never buy any alcohol for him.
I give her money, but she still won't buy any booze, you know. I mean, that's sad, isn't it? I mean, really is.
Well, I think people have gotten carried away and they treat drunks too mean. Even the bad ones like my dad. I mean, somebody had to take care of him. Somebody had to...
Didn't you take care of him when he was sober?
I took care of him.
And
the last 2 years.
He was just as nasty as he ever
was. Oh my God,
right.
Yes. His character just deteriorated.
That's what you told me.
He does make your life miserable living with him. But my family asked me, and so I sacrificed 2 years of my life taking care of this old drunkard. God. He and I had some of the worst fights, most horrible fights, because I remember one summer he wanted to go up to Utah with my 13-year-old son, driving the Cadillac, and my 13-year-old son was so happy to be able to drive that Cadillac. And he wanted to go up there all by himself. Imagine an old drunk like him, off in Utah alone, do anything he wanted to with this 13-year-old son.
I wouldn't even let my 16-year-old son.
I said, no, you're not going to Utah. Well, my dad just lit into me. He called me names. He told me that he said, all you want to go out there and have sex with that Barney boy. And he was another outlaw, another drunk. And, you know, my dad thought he was a better drunk than, because he, you know, and he hated my drunken boyfriends. He just couldn't stand them. And, you know, not realizing that in that town there was no other boyfriends available, but drunks. Drinking was an epidemic up there. I mean, it was just, you know, it's like Ireland. Everybody drank. And the ones that didn't drink, they were married to good Mormon women. They were never going to get divorced. So the only really people that ever became eligible to go with after you were older was bad drunks that their wives had divorced them. This guy that I was going with was so bad, nobody would have anything to do with him. That's why he's still 28.
How bad was he?
Well, he was a liar, a thief. He said himself when I met him, there isn't anything I wouldn't do. And he said, if you go with me, you will learn to lie, cheat, and steal. And he meant it. He was a thief.
All right.
But it was the best there was, and I was lonely. I've been lonely for a long time. Sorry.
We've gone through this before. What was one of his best physical characteristics?
Oh. It was beautiful. And he knew it. You know, it was one of his selling points. But he's 28 years old. Imagine, he wasn't married. So I wasn't really hurting. I wasn't going with a married man. I wasn't doing anything that wrong. All I had to do was keep from lying, cheating, and stealing. Like he was gonna. And I found out he was serious. I mean, if you got with him, he would steal all the while you were with him. And then he'd tell people, I got a new stealing partner now, her.
Bonnie
and Clyde, yes.
Bonnie and Jerry, right? No,
yeah,
Jerry
hell yes.
I forget what it is.
So, and she's my new, whatever. And we went out in the hills and we stole.
Over here.
You know, no matter what I said, and And I thought, well, it's true. If I go with him very longer, I will cheat, I will lie, I will steal. Every girlfriend he had learned.
And you did all that too, didn't you?
Well, I was along with him.
Well,
you know, he'd steal. He'd go in a camp and steal their stuff, and I'd try to put it back. I did try to put it back. Don't steal that. These guys are going to need this when they come home, and you're taking their food.
You're siphoning gas out of your dad's truck.
I need it. And he's siphoning gas on every vehicle he went, and I said, let come and they'll get in the car, and they won't have any gas to get home, and they'll be in danger. Oh, he didn't care. Oh, well, I've got to get home. I've got to have some gas. So, you know, I put up with him siphoning gas, stealing wherever we went, and I tried to put it back, and so I thought, this isn't working. He's right. I mean, I took him down to the city. He grabbed a new shirt up and said, quick, put this in your purse. And he was used to going with shoplifters, you know, women that would help him steal, steal through the store.
I may have
he was really a genuine
in my day, but
professional
I never even thought about
thief.
A turnip? Boosting a turnip? Boy, there must have been a good 25 cents involved there.
Well, and I said, get away from me. I said, I'm not stealing this shirt and going to jail. I said, I'll never take you to the city again. Never.
What's the city?
Problem.
Boulder?
If you have never gone with
cities.
A professional thief, absolutely, he'd say, I'm a goddamn kleptomaniac. I'll steal anything. It's true. It's true. I mean, if you've never gone with a guy like that, he's going to get you involved in stealing. There's no getting around it. I mean, he was going with he was running around with poison, who'd been in prison 4 times for stealing, and they were just, they're just ready to steal wherever they went. Everybody he had was ready to steal.
That would explain a lot of times when you went home and found out you didn't have your underwear on.
Oh, well, of course. And he stole my dad's brand new camera. He stole my quilts. Anything he would steal. I mean, hell, I lived next door to him after I wasn't even going with him anymore, and he was married, and he sneaked over to my house and stole brand new coffee pot. And I said, I saw it in his cupboard one day, and I said, you stole that? And he said, well, I needed one. So, if you lived next door to this guy.
And folks, in this series is supposed about me being a real shit-kicking alcoholic, right?
Yeah, right.
Oh, God.
Well, when you're single, the guys that are there to go with, they're not perfect. They're not perfect. So, don't expect him to be perfect. I didn't expect him. I said, well, I've got to reform this guy, and I could see how bad he was, so I thought, well, I've got to give up reforming him. I'm not getting anywhere, so...
What, me?
No. I've tried to reform him too, but you see how far I've gotten. But he's not hurting anybody, he's just killing himself. He's just destroying his body and won't be around too long, so. But he's not, he don't hurt other people that bad. He just disappoints them.
What do you mean that bad? I don't hurt anybody.
He's saintly. He's not over, isn't it? He is a saintly drunk. There's drunks that have a combination. There would be thieves, just do a lot of rotten, terrible stuff. And
oh, come on, let's face it now. I'm probably the most intelligent, best educated, and the mildest drunk you've ever seen.
I've looked a long
life.
time to find a drunk as good as he is.
That's true.
Uneducated, like he says, he doesn't steal. I said, but he told me I could see he was a bad drunk, but I said, well, what else do you do? Do you steal? No. He was kind of shocked. Of course I don't steal, But to me, a drunk that doesn't steal is a one up.
Oh, well, I'm just much that much farther than that other guy.
Oh, I tell you, most drunks have, some other stuff that they do that it's really hard to take too. So it's a matter of degree.
Anytime you're ready to run this episode down,
yeah. I'm sure now with my say today, that's really all I want to say. But we'll continue on with the saga of the care and nurturing of the alcoholic, because you may have to settle for a drunk, just like I did. Just because there's no other kind. Be realistic. What other choices do I have? Drug addicts? You know, they're just not too good a choice. I picked him out carefully. Well, he just...
How about you just your basic insane person for no reason at all, right?
Yeah, right.
I don't drink, I don't smoke, but I'm friggin' insane, man. And I'm crazier than alone.
Now,
but I don't
the last drunk I had
smoke.
before him was a gambler. He gambled every penny he had every month away, then he'd have to borrow from Pierre. Pierre would gamble every money he had, and then he would have to borrow to get through the month, and then the next month it'd start all over. He'd gamble it all away again, then he would have to borrow and get through the... Or he was down to that.
Sounds
He was
like
going to
some-
have to go...
Sounds like some female I
He
lent some
wasn't paying
money
these
to.
credit cards. He was going to have to go to court just before he died. So, see, he was not only a drunk, but he was addicted to smoking. He was had credit card debt, and he was a gambler.
And what the other part too?
And he don't gamble. I found out he
I
doesn't
said, what
gamble.
was that other part?
Oh yes, he was addicted to guys too. So you had to watch him all the time that he didn't run off with some handsome younger guy and be gone for hours. And so I finally quit him. I finally quit him when I found out he'd taken up with a handsome guy. And I told him, that's it, we're done. And then he got cancer and died. So this guy, he
Look
didn't
on the
do
bright
that.
side, right?
He didn't gamble,
Hopefully-
he didn't smoke.
Hopefully I've got cancer and
So
I die.
he was a big improvement, a step up. So, you know, I'm realistic. I don't expect to find perfect guys. I just, you know, he's about as perfect I knew as I was going to get. I mean, he pours him a drink first thing gets up, drinks all day long, but, you know, that's not bad. He don't steal. He doesn't,
How do you know what I do in my spare time? I might have stolen everything that's in this place.
compared to
You
some of the
don't
things
know.
I've gone with,
You don't know what I do in my spare time. I might be having,
Okay, well, I might
be
find
having
out.
a hooker sucker while you're not even paying attention.
you know, oh God, there's some guys that are addicted to porn. Oh, I forgot about that. That's another one. Oh.
Yes, well, I'm sorry. I gave all my porn away to you know who.
Yeah, he had some porn, but he gave it away, so he don't even have any porn. So this guy, you can't ask for perfection. He gets perfection almost in me because I don't even drink. He doesn't deserve me.
Listen, I'm gonna have to cut
But I'm
this
one of the
off
most perfect
because
women.
it's starting to build up so far on the floor, it's getting up to my knees right here. So
Oh.
I have to cut this off.
I see myself. I'm one of the most perfect women that
I
he
know.
could have found. And he knows it because he hates smoking.
And you've got this
He
little,
can't stand
little
women that
halo
smoke.
around your head, right?
Yeah, I
See, I've
know.
got this little thing on the thing.
I
that
make
keeps me
him
going.
laugh. I laugh. And I'm too fat. That's the worst.
I didn't say that.
Well,
I said you were,
I think I'm too fat.
I said you were big bone.
So, you know, he has to take
You guys believe in this
a
shit?
few faults. He's got to, you know, he can't get absolute perfection. He can't. He's got about as perfect a woman he's going to get. It is.
Boy, does that bring me down just thinking about that. Oh,
Yeah.
God. Now I
Just
know
about
I'm
as
going to Sun
perfect
City.
a woman. Yeah, Sun City. He longs for Sun City. I mean, where he get a woman that didn't smoke, had money, was thin, was beautiful, was. That's what, you know, he kind of had in mind.
No, I was.
But he says they probably want sex and alcohol is kind of.
Will you just cut this off? That's enough.
Oh, that's another thing he can't provide, but I'm 79. I guess I can get along without it. So, okay. Bye.
I told you it was going to be a disaster, right? And you didn't believe me, did you?
The alcoholic boyfriend and the need, you know, be realistic. You have to take a few faults.